Now, different screws for different jobs. Now, why on earth do screws have different names of drive heads? No one really knows for sure, but it may have to do with the crop circles made by these creators. And each drive has its own advantages depending on the application, and here's a quick rundown. First is that most screwdriver using folks prefer slotted screws for general use because they work with a wider variety of blade sizes, and even so, only one blade size is absolutely correct for any given screw head. And then another is Phillips screws are easier to use in automated and semi-automated production. The screwdriver naturally slips into the screw slots and makes a positive contact with the screw head. This certainty makes Phillips screws perfect for manufacturing lines and most of the electronic gadgets, toys, and other products that you buy, you use them. And then lastly is the hex and specialty screws. Heads provide a positive, a no-slip drive between screwdriver and screws. Now, you want to use these heads when the screw has to be really tight, such as with the assembly of a high-speed machine or one that gets jostled a lot, like your car. So, how many types of screws can there be anyway? Now, here's a list. We have slotted screws, we have Phillips screws, we have hex screws, and then we also have these specialty screws. For slotted screws, probably the most common of all, and these screws have a single slot that uses with a flat blade screwdriver. Then we have Phillips screws. Now these screws have a plus shaped slot used with a Phillips screwdriver. After slotted screws, you probably came across Phillips screws most often. Then we also have hex screws. Now these hex screws have a hexagon shaped socket used with a hex screwdriver or a set of L-shaped hex wrenches. Now you may hear these tools called as Allen or key wrenches. Then lastly, we have specialty screws. Now these screws uses a variety of slot tiles. Manufacturers make many of these screws for specific projects or distributors, and you don't see them often. They go by names like Torx and Posi Drive, and actually don't bother buying specialty screwdrivers until you need them. Like hex screws, you need them to exactly match the specialty screw with the right screwdriver. Now take it off wire cutters and strippers. The wire cutter and stripper tool is a must-have for any electronic works. As the name suggests, you use the wire cutter and stripper to both cut wire and strip off the wire's plastic insulation. Now you can see a combination cutter and stripper in the image here. So look for these tools at a Radio Shack and other electronic parts stores, or check out one of the better stock hardware and home improvement outlets. With many strippers, you can dial in the gauge of the wire, like titled "What is a wire gauge?" Anyway, if you want to know about this, these tools allows you to more easily remove just the insulation without cutting or nicking the wire underneath. And usually, some folks prefer to buy wire cutters and wire strippers as a separate tool. Either the cutter or stripper tends to get dull faster than the other. Now, it depends on the type of work that you do and the wire that you use. The separate tools tends to be cheaper than one of the combo deals, and you don't have to pay as much down the road if you replace them one at a time. Now, another form of wire cutter is the flush or nippy cutter, which you can see here. Now it cuts flush with a printed circuit board, and it is useful when you need to get in close, and this tool works well with a wire from 30 to 16 gauge. Thicker wire may be damaged the tool or dull the cutting blades, and for thicker wires uses a diagonal cutters that is called as lineman's pliers.